Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching BQ Prime. My name is Alex Mathew, and this is an earnings conversation with the management of Mahindra Holidays. I'm joined by Kavinder Singh, as usual. Kavinder, thanks so much for taking the time. And, always a pleasure speaking with you. Could you take us through the key highlights? As I see it, India business growing strong, but the overseas business seems to be giving you a little bit of trouble.
At a broader level, your assessment is right. India business has done extremely well. We had 90% plus occupancies during this quarter on an expanded base of about 5,000 rooms. This quarter also turned out to be the best ever quarter in terms of total income growth at about 17%, and the absolute number of income at about 355 crores excluding one-offs. And if I were to look at our EBITDA, it crossed 100 crores for the first time, and that grew by about 19% on a YOY basis, and so did the profit before tax, which also grew by about 19%. So India business performance, financial performance was also supported by, as I mentioned, 90% occupancies leading to resort income, again becoming the highest ever resort income for us in the first quarter, which grew by about 10% on a year-on-year basis. If I were to look at the member additions, they were also very robust. They grew by about 23% at about 4,700 member additions, taking our member count total to about 286,000 odd numbers. And most importantly, the upgrades were extremely robust. We grew our upgrades by about 16%. And even if you were to look at the membership sales value, it was up by about 23%. And if I were to look at the big picture, as you know that we are looking at increasing our total inventory count, room inventory count from 5,000 to 10,000 in about 6 to 7 years' time. And we made some moves already in quarter one. We acquired a resort in Jaipur, which is already operational in quarter one. We also broke ground in Ganpati Phule, a very beautiful beachside resort, which will come up, which is a 236-room resort with an investment of about 250 crores. So as I speak, we have 800 to 900 crores investment already in play. I will talk about the projects a little later. But let me come back to your question on the international operations. I think you have you made a very important point that international operations are having a bit of a bump, as we saw. If we were to look at the situation, and this is very important for all of us to understand that the Europe is seeing, and particularly Finland is seeing inflation at the levels which they have never seen before. Despite that, the timeshare performance was extremely good. As you know, Finns love to own a second home. They are not able to afford second home because Euribor and the mortgage rates are high. So they're looking at timeshare, and timeshare sales is robust. Where we lost out was in the spa hotels, because in the spa hotels, the cost cannot be flexed down and the occupancies were low and the consumer sentiment is affected because of the inflation. People were not spending enough at the resorts. And by the way, Q1 is also a seasonally weak quarter, as a result of which we saw the holiday club resorts performance muted. Having said that, from mid-June onwards, the holiday season has started and Finns are holidaying like never before. So the second quarter definitely is going to be better than the Q1. And therefore, as I must say always, that we remain optimistic about even the performance in the European operations moving forward. As you saw in the quarter four, we turned around 6.4 million euro EBITDA, and for the full year, we ended at 5 million euros.
Okay, very important points that you're raising there. In terms of strategy, though, and you alluded to the addition of several rooms over the course of the next 6 to 7 years. You're well on course to adding quite a few at the start of the new financial year as well. You pointed out the Ganpati Phule property. You also pointed out the new acquisition that you've done. I'm also curious about the member additions, because if you remember, I don't know if you remember, Kavinder, but we spoke about the mix earlier. And I'm just trying to wonder or trying to understand whether what you were talking about in terms of diversifying that mix, have you made any progress, or is that slow moving? Is it something that will pan out over a period of time?
So I think when you say diversifying the mix, you probably meant that we have different products. Primarily, we have been a 25-year product company, and we also realized that with times that people would like to commit for a slightly shorter tenure. So just to give you a heads up, in this financial year which went by, we actually launched a 15-year product and that's also beginning to do well. We already have a 10-year Bliss points-based product for people who are above 50 who can holiday in any season by burning the level of points that they would like to burn. And we anyway have a GoZest product, which is a 3-year product to get millennials in. And that is something that is really, really helpful because you get foot in the door and then you convert them to take the higher tenure memberships. Also, in this quarter, we added a 4-year product which was launched in April, and that's also beginning to do well. So on an overall basis, yes, majority is still a 25-year product. But if I were to look at in the last 1 or 2 years, yes, we are seeing momentum in Bliss. We are seeing momentum in GoZest.
Okay. Coming to the results in terms of what I started with, which is the fact that Europe is seeing a bump, and for various reasons, geopolitical, you're talking about economic conditions, inflation, as you pointed out. Would you say then, from the perspective of how the business is panning out, that in the long-term vision or the medium to long-term vision, the focus will be primarily on developing India, on growing India? And would you shift focus a little bit away or resources a little bit away from growing that side of the business?
All right. Again, I must say that, let's go back a bit as to why did we acquire this company a few years ago. The company at that time wasn't doing well, and we felt that in Scandinavia is a place where people will go in the future. Had it not been for COVID, and now the Russia-Ukraine war, we would have achieved our strategic objectives of creating significant enterprise value. Having said that, we are well on our way to reduce the debt on that company. That company, when we acquired, had a debt of about 50 odd million euros. It's down to now 15 million euros. So there is a big improvement in the cash flow generation. The company has tightened its belt. And by the way, the new timeshare destinations which are being launched over there are getting very, very good response. So timeshare as a business in Scandinavia is going to do well. Our real challenge has been to manage the cost of spa hotels, particularly during COVID and these situation that has arisen out of the geopolitical situation where people feel the heat of the inflation, and as a result of which sometimes, particularly in a low season quarter like this. So the strategy that we have outlined for us is that can we get international visitors to visit this place, not just India, but the rest of the world, including Europe. And even if you were to leave Europe, the Asian travel itself can ensure that our lean season is filled by the Asians, because the Asian holiday season starts from April, May, June, while their season starts from June, July, August. Similarly, they don't have much of a occupancy in the month of November. How can we fill up those rooms in November? If we were able to get few things right, then definitely this is a turnaround story waiting to happen. As I mentioned already, that this is a turnaround that we actually started in quarter 4. Quarter 1, we were hit again by the season and the low consumer sentiment. We're just waiting for a few things to sort out. And I believe that this business will deliver reasonably good levels of EBITDA. And then we have a belief that we can use this business based on the potential opportunities that we might see on the horizon at that time, not immediately, to grow our international business. Having said that, coming back to your question, our intent, and this 5,000 to 10,000 rooms when I talked about, is definitely India focused. We will definitely look at Middle East. We will definitely look at Southeast Asia to get more properties there. But we are currently focused on India. That is anywhere where our energies are focused, even our resources. As far as the international operation is concerned, it's fairly independent. All we have to do is a bit of a strategic nudge or a guidance, which is what will help us achieve the objectives that I outlined earlier.
Fantastic. And thanks so much for elucidating that point. When I look at the standalone EBITDA margin, it's at what, 28.3%. And would it be fair, Kavinder, to say that the hospitality industry has weathered the storm of COVID-19 and has learnt a few lessons in terms of operating a tight ship, and as a result of which those operational efficiencies are leading to much higher margins? Is that going to continue? Is that going to grow even further, or we reach the peak?
So, margin is a journey which never ends, in my view. There is always room for improvement. And the areas that we are focusing on, and in our case, our margin is dependent on two, three things. One is, of course, what you alluded to in terms of resort operating costs. And by the way, we have made huge inroads during the pandemic time in terms of installing solar panels in 22 of our resorts. 20% of our energy is now renewable. We want to take it to 40%. This is also in line with our ESG objectives. In fact, we are committed to get into 100% renewables in about 15 years from now. Maybe we will do it earlier. Having said that, the other cost, which is extremely important in our business, is cost of acquisition. If we were to focus on referrals, if we were to focus on getting members through word of mouth, your cost of acquisition comes down, and that also leads to improvement in margins. So we have quite a few tricks up our sleeve to continuously look at improving the margins. And I don't see any reason why we should not keep improving the margins. And if you were to compare up with us from the pre-pandemic levels, we are already up by 450 basis points.
Which is why I asked as well. And those upgrades don't hurt either, right, Kavinder? Speaking of the additions, would you give us a sense of how much you're likely to spend in terms of capacity expansion or addition in the current financial year?
So that's a question I'd love to answer, because the good news for us there is that we have now, as I speak, we have about 800 crores of Capex already underway. Let me give you a quick rundown. We have a resort in Kandaghat, which is near Shimla, where a 200 crores expansion plan is on. I mentioned to you that Ganpati Phule, we are already launched a 250 crores project. So that made it about 450 crores. We are also expanding our Goa resort by investment of 50 crores. And we are also adding rooms in our Puducherry resort by about 60 odd rooms. And we are looking at this moment of time. Of course, we acquired the resort in Jaipur of 72 keys. And we are planning to break ground, already in fact broken ground, for Kyog also, which is going to be 150 crores investment. So as I speak, about 800 to 850 crores of Capex is underway, while our big strategic objective of getting 5,000 rooms in 7 years stands. But these steps to make that happen have already been taken in terms of moving on with about 800 crores of Capex investment right away. Of course, this will only increase.
Kavinder Singh, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Mahindra Holidays, thank you so much for taking the time for speaking to BQ Prime.